Hi readers. At this point in your reading lives, you've learned that you can use an element of a story to learn more about it, to find a deeper meaning. You could choose to study characters, to think about how characters affect your understanding of the story. You could choose to study the setting. You could choose to study problems, motives, symbols, motifs. Today, we're going to use characters as our lens for thinking about deeper meanings and themes and stories. So to get started, I want to share with you a quote from one of my favorite authors and poets, Maya Angelou. She says, "I've learned that you can tell a lot about a person by the way he or she handles three things: a rainy day, lost luggage, and tangled Christmas tree lights." Now, as many of you know, I don't celebrate Christmas, but the way that I interpret this is that basically you can figure out what a person's like by watching them handle something that doesn't go their way. Like maybe they're setting up for a party or a celebration and it doesn't go well. Maybe it's raining on their wedding day or on their birthday. Maybe they lose all their luggage at the airport or lose their wallet when they're trying to buy groceries. Think about in your own life, have you ever watched someone publicly go through a struggle? Have you ever seen someone freak out in public? It's kind of scary, isn't it? And you can usually pretty quickly get a sense of where they are at as a person or what's going on. Maybe they're having a crisis. Maybe they're having a really bad day, or maybe that's just the kind of person that they are. But the way that a person reacts to something tells us a lot about them. It's also amazing when we meet people or come to know people that just take things that are really hard in a really easy, calm way. I'll never forget when I was with my friend and hearing about how her mom learned she had cancer. And her response was, "You know what? It's okay. I'm going to get through it. I'm going to do the best I can to live every day to the fullest." I just thought, wow, that's a really strong person. So it goes both ways. The way that we handle problems shows other people the kind of people we are. And we can learn a lot from just people watching, just like how we can learn a lot by character watching. So today, I want to teach you that when readers want to talk about themes, when they want to think thematically, they sometimes think about the characters as their lens, and they think about the problems the characters face and how they handle those problems, asking what lessons does the character learn from the problem? And then they consider, well, what does the author really want me as the reader to understand? What might the author want me to learn about this problem or issue? I'm going to show you how I do this using the story Popularity. But before we jump back into that story, let's just remember where we left off. We've learned so far that our main character, Will, has two friends named Alan and Alan, and he doesn't like them very much. And he doesn't really have much in common with them either, he says. They look for clovers because they don't really have anything else to do, while the other popular kids at recess do things that seem much more fun and much better. Will eventually is like, you know what, enough of this life. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to go off and I'm going to figure out what it takes to be popular. He studies them closely. He watches them from afar. And he starts to think about ways he could make it into the group. We learn a lot about Will. We learn that Will is a pretty determined person after all. Yeah, maybe he's mean. Maybe he's kind of jealous. But he's also pretty determined to get what he wants. He goes after it. He studies, he watches, and he waits for his moment. Okay, now that we have this ready to go, let's start with this big work. We're about halfway through the story. So let's think before we head any deeper into the story, what problems is the character already facing? What does he do about his problems? Let's see. I was thinking that maybe one problem is he doesn't like his friends. He just doesn't like them. And we've already kind of seen how he handles it. He starts to do things like make a plan for becoming popular. So that's so far showing us that he's determined, right? We're still kind of watching to see how that all plays out. We know that he was pretty bored with his life and unhappy with his life. It wasn't exciting, things were the same. And a big thing that he sees as a problem is not being popular. It's probably the biggest problem that he sees in his life right now. So let's read on a little bit to see, well, how does he handle these? And what does he learn about these problems? What does he learn to be true? I'm going to go back to the story. I'm going to read on. You can read on too with me. So if you are following along or want to do this on your own, I'm getting all of my charts and tools from our Padlet, a deep study of character. So I'm going to make sure I have this chart out while I'm working, the chart that I just made. And it'll be here to guide me as I read on in the story. Pull it over here to the side so I can remember my big questions as I read more of popularity. Okay, so when we left off, he was watching the popular kids, studying them closely, looking at Mitch, the other kid who's like the class clown. And Will's like, I could be the class clown. So let's see what happens. I did not know then that popularity has a lifespan and that Mitch's time was about to run out. Ooh, doesn't sound good for Mitch. It is a sad fact of life that the clothes a child wears and how he wears them often determine his rank in school society. I knew it. Sean Owens, that's the most popular kid. Sean Owens knew it. Everyone in school knew it. So maybe it was carelessness or temporary insanity or a subconscious desire to step back into the stress-free shadows of anonymity that caused Mitch Brockman to wear a yellow shirt with yellow pair of pants. He might have gotten away with it if I hadn't left for school that same morning, unaware that one folded cuff of my jeans was noticeably lower than the other, and it was. The two of us were on a collision course that only one of us would survive. Ooh, we're definitely getting to that climactic moment. Can you tell the problem is going to be like, he's going to have to face that moment. It seems like can he be popular or not? It's going to happen for him or not. You can kind of get that sense that the tension's rising. It's getting exciting. At recess, on that fateful day, I took my customary place a foot from the popular boys, wondering if I would ever get a chance to prove myself, and listened to Mitch tell another variation of his story about the Wienermobile. I pretended to enjoy the story as much as the others, while my mind strayed to a dream world where I did not have to feel so out of place. And Mitch and Sean and I were the best of friends. And then, with a suddenness that jarred me back to reality, Mitch Brockman, a boy who had never noticed me, never seemed to know or care that I was alive, turned to me, pointed at my uneven pants, and said, "Someone needs a ruler." So this is a moment where he's being faced with his problem. Unpopularity. He's unpopular, and now Mitch is calling it out. He's making fun of him publicly in front of the kids he wants to be friends with. Oh my gosh, this is the moment where we learn about him and about the lesson that he's learning and we're supposed to learn. We have to zoom in. Can you tell that this feels important? It's like the stress is on, like the stakes are high. This was perhaps the wittiest remark he had ever made, and I froze. With 4 words, he had devastated all my aspirations, defined me as a fool, and all but condemned me to a life of shame and obscurity. Already his reaction is not so good. He's being very negative. Definitely seems like popularity is like the be-all, end-all for him. It seems so big and important. If he doesn't get it, that's the way he's going to view it. It's worrisome. That makes me think that that's all he cares about. Let's keep reading, though, to see. I could see my future, my boyhood itself, crumbling to dust. And as I heard the laughter and felt the heat of the spotlight upon me, I pointed at Mitch's yellow pants and shirt and said, "Someone else needs a mirror. You look like a canary." Then, with the grace of a magician's assistant, I raised my left arm in a presentational gesture and said, "Boys, I give you Tweety Bird." That's so mean. So when he's faced with his problem, someone calling him out for being weird or unpopular, he faces it by being mean back. He's being mean to this other kid. That's how he's handling it. What kind of a person is that? What does that make you think about him? So now let's be thinking about, what does he learn about this problem of popularity? What lessons does the character learn? We're about to finish the story now, so we're really trying to think, well, what is the lesson that Will learns about popularity and being unpopular? And it was all over. As the volume of the laughter doubled, Mitch seemed to vanish. And that day, on that playground, Sean Owens' laughter was heard for the first time. In an instant, Mitch Brockman became Tweety Bird, and I, an absolute nonentity, became somebody, and then somebody special. Someone to seek out, someone to follow. his whole life is changing now because he was mean to that boy in front of all the other popular kids. He's now cool. Sean owns his first jester and best friend. The entire transformation was complete in a matter of months. So all that studying of the popular boys paid off. He becomes popular. How does he do it? Watches them closely, waits for his move, acts poorly and meanly, just like the other kids. During this time, Mitch became a less and less vocal part of the group, telling fewer and fewer stories until finally the following year he was gone to another school perhaps, or another state, or another country. I never knew. No one knew because no one noticed. No one had called him for months, but my phone rang. My weekends were filled with sleepovers and baseball games and bowling parties and bicycle races and more new friends than I knew what to do with. And I did not trust one of them. So he has all these new friends. He becomes popular. What does he say? He doesn't trust any of his friends. What? So what does he learn about the problem? What does he learn about unpopularity? And I did not trust one of them because I knew then that I was standing on sand and was only a yellow shirt and a pair of pants away from the oak trees where the two Allens were still looking for 4-leaf clovers. So at the end of it all, what does he learn? He learns that, okay, he can be determined and, try to get what he wants, but once he actually becomes popular, or he can't trust anyone, that maybe for him, popularity actually isn't so good after all. Maybe then the character is learning that maybe he learns that when you become popular, maybe it's like not all it's worked out to be. Maybe he learns that popularity isn't so great after all. Or maybe popularity doesn't replace friends, because he's saying that he can't even trust any of the people he's become friends with. Interesting. So at first I wanted to say, what does he learn in this story? He learns that if he's determined, he gets what he wants. Like he works really hard and he gets it. But then you have to listen closely to what he says about it, what he thinks about it, how he reacts internally on the inside. Those last few lines where he's thinking to himself, he tells us really what he learns, which is that he can't trust anyone even after all of that. So then I'm asking myself now this other big question, well, what does the author want us to understand about this issue of being popular? It seems like the author wants us to learn the same thing that the main character learns, doesn't it? Like he has us watch the main character go through this journey, working hard, thinking that he wants this thing. Maybe we've wanted it before too. Maybe we've wanted to be cool, or maybe we've done things to impress other people. And then we go through the motions with him, with Will, thinking, oh yeah, he's doing it. He's gonna get his friends. He's gonna have a better life because he's been so determined and working hard. Maybe we're supposed to learn the same thing that he does. He's like, yeah, you can try as much as you want, but it doesn't mean you're gonna have real friends. It doesn't mean that it's gonna be a better life. You might feel good, but you won't have anything different on the inside. So here's the big thing that we did today. We used a character as a tool for really unlocking a huge part of the story, the theme of the story. So today, and any day, you want to think thematically. You can think about the character and the way that the character responds to problems and what the character learns from problems. Asking yourself, what lessons does the character learn? And what does the author want me to learn by watching the character? The character is like our teacher, as well as the author. The two of them together are helping us to figure out something important about life. And as we watch them across the story and think about what it could really mean, we can take away some big lessons that apply to our own lives. So I hope you try this in your own books. I hope you look closer at characters, even more closely than you have before. Thanks for joining in. See you next time.